Sorry, further question.
It's really just one other question. The work that you have to do and that your Commission have to do is, as I said, of the first importance. And it seems to me, and I think you would agree with me, that your job is not just to kind of promote best practice in equality matters, or to defend the equality of all of our citizens, and as we've just discussed, people who are perhaps not yet citizens, but also to, in addition to vindicating human rights and equality, isn't there also the need to create a culture of respect among the public for human rights? I have particular concerns because in our country at the moment, I think in some ways we're becoming a more divided society where people don't all have the same values. And this creates a difficulty for, well, where do we locate our sense of what constitutes authentic human rights? And you mentioned in your presentation, for example, the Constitution as obviously one of our sources, in a sense our primary and most authoritative source for what constitutes authentic human rights. The question I'm asking you has to do with a concern that I have, and that I know it's shared by many others, about the role of international human rights agencies. I have to say I was extremely unhappy with the behaviour of the UN Human Rights Commission recently, and the comments of Sir Nigel Rodley, particularly in relation to Ireland's abortion laws.
I'm not sure if you were here at the beginning, but
yes,
you're not supposed to criticise or make charges against any persons or entity by name, or in any way to make them identifiable. So
right,
that's not.
So am I allowed to criticise the ideas of any other person?
But I just read it out again. Under the salient rulings of the Chair, members should not comment on, criticise or make charges against a person outside the House or an official by name in such a way as to make him or her identifiable.
Well, of course I respect your rulings on that, but
the rulings of the Chair.
Yeah, I would say, Chair, though, that we probably have to really clarify our thinking around that. I'm not making any charges against any person, nor am I criticising any person for their personal conduct. I think I am entitled to disagree, for example, with a government decision, with the action of a politician, a person in a leadership role, or a public person who makes a public statement, and criticise that statement. So maybe I'd put it this way: I want to criticise, I would be very critical of the statements of Sir Nigel Rodley recently. Criticising Ireland, for example, over its laws on abortion, when those laws are actually proceed from our constitutional understanding of what human rights say about the right to life of every human being from its beginnings. It seems to me that UN agencies are radically in danger of overstepping their remit. And I suppose I'm expressing the hope and asking you, and maybe hoping for confirmation, that the work of the Commission, that it will proceed from a respect of what's in the Irish Constitution now. Because we have major values discussions and debates between people of goodwill in society, but there are now radical, different points of view about at what stage a human being should be welcomed into the human community, and their rights as such be respected. I suppose I think it's appropriate that I flag here my concern that certain international human rights bodies appear to be off of a frolic on their own, on a frolic of their own, in such a way that they do not appear to respect our constitutional understanding of what authentic human rights are. And I suppose in whatever way is possible, I would ask that your Commission would respect, first of all, the diversity of different points of view of people in goodwill in our society on various issues, and secondly, that there would be, as a starting premise, respect for the full requirements and provisions of our Constitution, and that it wouldn't be a case that we end up stressing some aspects of the Constitution and then wishing that other aspects weren't there because they don't suit perhaps a majority media consensus at a given time. I'm certainly not asking you for a detailed answer to that, but nor do I think it's unfair to raise the issue. I think it's going to be bad for the cause of promoting human rights if international agencies are pushing controversial issues in a way that goes far beyond the remit of protecting the accepted, agreed content of human rights. And I would just hope that, that your Commission at its outset would be determined, whatever the views of individual persons on the Commission might be, that there would be a pushback against that out of a sense of professional integrity, but also respect for the diversity of opinions in our society and, as I said, the provisions of our Constitution.
Thank you, Senator. No, I'm not, as the Senator said,
obviously I'm not going to get into commenting on any individual, but what I would say in terms of my observation of the UN hearing, you have to remember that it was 10 years since that UN committee heard progress in relation to human rights in Ireland. And certainly I was struck, I was watching the live feed, and I was struck by the litany of abuses, the lack of accountability in the past of the state for societal and institutional practice that led to the widespread abuse, mistreatment and neglect of women and children, and I am very familiar with that as Ombudsman for Children as well. So I think perhaps the session itself was much more shocking because it was a 10-year appraisal of what had gone on in Ireland. So I think generally speaking, people were generally disturbed, concerned and shocked at the violations of human rights, and to have heard it expressed in a UN Human Rights Committee was not only embarrassing, it was shocking as an Irish citizen, not just as Chief Commissioner, to hear about our demonstrable history and the way we have treated women and children. I'm not going to specifically make a comment in relation to that individual, but what I will say is the Commission, of course, Senator Mullen, I will assure you that we respect diversity of opinion in Ireland. We have diverse opinions as a Commission. We have a healthy level of debate. That's the purpose of the Commission, is to respect and respond to the views that exist in Ireland. So we're not going to ignore those views, but we will adequately represent where there are differences. My view is that they should be adequately and publicly, properly communicated.
Thank you. I suppose what I'm getting at is that there mustn't be kind of a shared doctrine of human rights among a certain elite that actually trumps what the Constitution provides for. And in that respect, I fully agree with you in the context of the UN gathering. Yes, there have been shocking things in every country, not just in Ireland, and I suppose coming against after 10 years. But, for example, when it is put to the chairperson, when NGOs are working hard to present a truthful account of issues, and when it's put to the chairperson, for example, of a committee, a recognised human rights expert, that embryology textbooks attest to the beginning of human life at conception, and when the response is a sneering response that, well, maybe Irish embryology textbooks say that, that simply isn't good enough, and that is what Sir Nigel Rodley said. So I'm just saying, I'm not asking you to jump in with me in an accusation here. That wouldn't be fair on you.
I think now,
but
Senator,
I would be asking you to...
Senator, I think we've actually gone over that ground already. You've already kind of...
Okay,
so let's...
just 1 second here now.
Please.
Yeah, but can I just respond to that?
No, you can't.
But
I'm sorry.
I don't think we should have a culture of censorship. I think my exchange is quite a satisfactory one.
When the chair speaks, have a culture of good manners and stop and listen, please. You don't come in here. Sorry. You don't come in here that terribly often. But just listen for a moment. We have an engagement today. Now, the issues you're bringing up are extremely important, and it may be possible to have a specific meeting on those issues at a later stage. I don't think it's very fair to go into a detailed, and you said it yourself, a really detailed discussion on these issues right now, because this was a preliminary engagement, if you like, with the Chief Commissioner designate. So perhaps we might discuss and I've been open with everybody here, bringing these issues up at a later stage, formally, with notice, so we can have a proper debate on those.
Chairman. We early on talked about recommending from this committee that we have a dull debate, about the UN Human Rights Committee's quite startling, implications for our international reputation. That we would have that debate in the Dáil, and I think that stands. And I think this is really not the place to have. I appreciate Senator Mullen, and he's graced us by attending here today, but I appreciate that that's something he feels strongly about, but it's something that we can have a wider debate in the Dáil, and indeed in the Shannon at a later time.
fairness, if we could go into detail on any of the issues that the members have brought up today, but that's not the purpose of this meeting today in particular. And I would be anxious to, if there are issues that members are really concerned about at a later stage pertaining to the new Commission, that we would actually give notice and have a proper engagement and have a specific meeting on them, to be fair.
A brief response.
Very brief, please.
Well, but certain issues have been said. First of all, it doesn't lie in your mouth, or indeed in Deputy McLaughlin's mouth, to make any references, implied or otherwise, to my attendance at this committee meeting. I think, how dare you do that? I attend these meetings as an independent politician, and I check the agenda, and when I have come in something to say, I come in and say it. I don't come in to vote at other people's behest. Okay? So that's the first thing. So I think you should withdraw that comment. Secondly, there are only 3 people here present now, the committee, and I am here. So I think I think manners, it falls to you. No, please let me finish now. It falls to you to consider whether you were quite mannerly in making that assertion. I was one of only 2 people yesterday. Deputy McLaughlin wasn't there. I'll make no comment about Senator Zappone because her work record is impeccable in the area. But I was one of only 2 deputies who met Ms. Maria Vasiladiou, the EU anti-trafficking coordinator. So please, make no references. I will be here when there's business here that I have to do business on, but I won't be coming in here just to palaver you. Now, can I just say... No, sorry, I'm responding to what you said, and I think it was inappropriate, and I think you should acknowledge that.
The statement is back, Senator. You're hardly ever here. This is a working committee of the bureaucracy. You rarely show up. You're
here as the yes man. I'm here to stand up for the issue.
You rarely graces me your presence. And a working Oireachtas committee.
No, you're a yes man. You're a yes man. You don't speak for yourself. Somebody else writes your speech. I write my own.
I would have to suspend the meeting. Look, the thing is, the reason that I apologise if I offended you in any way. That wasn't the intention. My difficulty as chairman is quite often we have a problem getting a quorum. You are an official member of the committee. We have a problem quite often.
And when I come in to do the business of the committee, and what I have brought up was sufficiently general to be acceptable, you try and close down the debate. So that is why our parliamentary system is weak.
That is not true.
And if you were a stronger chairman, you wouldn't be afraid.
Rarely show up for the business
if you were a stronger chairman, you wouldn't be afraid of my... I don't think Ms. Logan takes any issue because I was sufficiently respectful.
You're being disorderly here now, please.
No, I'm defending. I'm giving you as good as you gave.
I have actually
and you can't take it, and Deputy McLaughlin, the yes man, can't take it.
I have actually suggested to you
that if there are issues
that you want to raise, substantive issues, and really important and deep issues.
I'm talking about a culture of human rights and how we understand it. If we can't discuss that issue at this committee without getting defensive, then I think we have no future.
In fairness to the actual Commissioner who's coming here today for an engagement with us, that if we want to go into serious, deep issues, that we would actually give notice and have a specific meeting on those issues. And that's
overly specific in what I raised. This isn't about fairness to Ms. Logan is eminently competent and was completely comfortable at every aspect of my exchange with her. It's your fear and the discomfort of Deputy McLaughlin, and I'm sure Senator Zappone would have made a riveting response to some of the issues I raised. I mightn't agree with all aspects of it, but I would have huge respect for her contribution because it would come from a well-reasoned and respectful place.
Right. Okay. So I'm not sure if you want to respond to anything at this stage.
I'm sorry about that. I apologise to my colleague.
No, it's just No, I want to assure Senator Mullen that the Commission is made up itself of a group of people with diverse views, and that our job, if we're to respect the fundamental principles of human rights, that includes respecting diverse opinions. And to say to you, of course, I mean, I included in my presentation respect for the constitutional framework. That is a conversation that we will continue to have at the Commission. But we also respect the international oversight by the UN. And I would say in this particular circumstance, I do recall the Minister for Justice herself saying how women's rights and children's rights had advanced because of that international oversight. And I think it's possible to achieve a balance.
Yes, I agree.
And I think it's also possible to do that in a way that's respectful to people who share diverse opinions.
Yes. And for the avoidance of doubt, I hope you didn't feel in any way discomforted or drawn into unnecessary detail by any aspect of my questions.
Drawn.
I didn't think you did. Thank you very much.
All done? All done. Thank you.